the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the day of judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said within the Adamic narrative of creation that when Allah Azza wa Jal created Adam, peace be upon him, the angels said to him that, why would you do this? That I'm going to send onto this earth the Khalifa. Why would you send one who caused corruption, facade, a lot of problems and issues? Allah Azza wa Jal, he tells his angels that indeed you do not know what it is that I know. And they teach Adam the names of everything. And the angels, they yield to this notion that indeed you know better than we do. And that the recognition of this narrative, there's so much that likely you have heard within our own tradition as well as broader traditions that share with us prophets and patriarchs and other figures. But embedded within it is a recognition as well that is not just the overall understanding of creation in and of itself, but based within it is intentionality, a reason as to why we were made. To be Khalifa, to be what often is understood, a steward of the earth. You guys who are in the back want to move this way so that people coming in don't think that there's no room. There's a lot of room on this side. A common conception when individuals think about purpose from a religious context, they think about it purely in the framework of worship. Illa liya'budun, the Quran says. It's a part of understanding of purpose within our tradition, but it's not sole or absolute. There's so much more that the Quran tells that we were made to be and to do. It talks about isti'mar, the need to cultivate umran, civilization, to go out and build civility in society. It talks about ibtila, to overcome challenges, to meet what is there in front of you with perseverance. The verse says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So you have a growth mindset that I'm going to take on challenges. I'm going to reach my potential. But it also talks about this idea of being khalifa, istikhlaf. That you, each one individually, have purpose to fulfill. This notion of istikhlaf, to be khalifa, is not just a caretaker of the earth or a steward of the earth in the sense that we adopt a sense of environmental consciousness or engage in climate control. These are important parts of it, but it's not the only thing. Because when you are khalifa, you're also what comes next. You're the successor. That I have a 6-year-old son named Kareem, I have an 8-year-old daughter named Medina. I'm waiting for the day that things open up more and you all can meet them who haven't, and those of you who have met them, they really long to see you all as their older brothers and sisters. But they are khalaf to me. They are what comes next. I am salaf to them. I precede them. And in a link, in a chain that goes generations and generations and generations within this framework of an Adamic narrative of creation, you are not now just a khalaf to your parents and your guardians. You're not just the next link in a chain that has one generation above, but you are part of a chain that transcends a multitude of generations. And in this room's collective history are the realities of colonization, the realities of slavery, the realities of imperialism, the realities of so much. There are people in your heritage who are amazing human beings, and likely also people who are not so good. But people who moved from all different parts of the world, people who witnessed conflict, people who migrated, immigrated. You have refugees in your lineage. You have people who are forced from their homes. You have people who had to flee violence. You had people who walked thousands of miles. And when you are khalaf, you are part of a chain that goes back not just years, but centuries, arguably transcends lifespans that you can't even fathom. And all of those people, your parents' parents, their parents, and so on and so forth, each one of them had to move exactly the way that they moved, chose the choices that they chose, decided the decisions that they landed upon, and went in every direction that they possibly could, if for no other reason, so that you could be sitting where you are right now. Istiqlal, to be a khalifa, is to recognize that you are part of something that is much bigger than just you. Many of you, it's the first time you are in any of these spaces, and you've been a student here for more than a year. For some of you, it's your first time and your second day of classes, and for the others in the room, you've been here for even longer. But in these initial days, you want to think with a deep mindfulness. What is it that I'm going to now bring next? And how am I going to fulfill with deep intentionality and mindfulness that sense of purpose that so many others long to have, but they don't know what direction to go? Our tradition, it teaches us in a narration that we are but travelers in this world, that the best of creation, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, he says, kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib or abr as-sabil, that be in this world like you are a stranger or a traveler. That you recognize that this realm of existence is an important realm of existence, but is not the sole realm of existence. And that your movement in this world is in such a way that you float through it with a sense of contentment, a sense of stability and strength, because you are conscious of what's going to come next. With a deep recognition that a lot of people have to go through a lot of things in order for you to be where you are right now. Early in my career, I worked at Princeton University for a year. When I went to Princeton University, it was crazy. It's 2006. Somebody who probably like 5 years old, which also makes me feel horrible. My first week at Princeton University, I was meeting people like Cornel West and Toni Morrison, who were then at Princeton at that time. I met somebody who was one of the founders of Amazon.com. I met somebody who's responsible in part for the resurgence of China's economy at that time. And I'm only 24 years old trying to figure out what am I doing here. And then a week later, I started to get letters from alumni of Princeton University that we don't want Muslims at Princeton. We don't want your Sharia law at Princeton. Somebody like you should not be at a place like this. When I went to talk to my supervisors, the heads of religious life at Princeton University, the explanation that they gave to me was that one of the people who was the head of the chapel, the dean of religious life, he was going to become the Archbishop of Southern Ohio. And these people, they were frustrated because they thought that I had been hired to take on his role. And I said, why couldn't I be in his role? Because I'm Muslim? At the end of the year, at Princeton, they have a lot of Princeton pride. So they do this parade of alumni from way back when. all wearing white and orange pinstripe suits. And they have the oldest alums march around graduation from the beginning of the path. And the most recent ones come at the end. You see decades upon decades of class years graduate. They're all elderly white males. Eventually, you start to see a little bit of gender diversity. You see some racial diversity, but pretty much by the end of it, it's still mostly young white men. One of the things that I was asked to do at Princeton University that year was participate in an unofficial graduation ceremony that takes place on many campuses around the country called the Pan-African Baccalaureate. A space where Black students and some brown students, mostly African American, come together to celebrate their graduation. They asked me to share some words at that space, and there was a young woman who was the valedictorian of that ceremony. When she got on the microphone, said to her peers that just because we are at Princeton does not mean that we are of Princeton. And we should not forget how so many had to struggle and sacrifice so that we can be in the seats that we are in today. So our degrees, our training, our credentials should never be something that is self-serving, egocentric. But we should take what it is that we have gained from this place and use it always for the common good and the betterment and advancement of our community on a whole. You are part of something better, bigger. You are khalifa. You are a link in a chain. There are those that came before you. Your choices and your decisions to embrace a sense of privilege that is afforded to you to ascertain a degree and a credential that many others have the capacity intellectually, but not might have the opportunity to sit where you sit. And to be able to be bold enough to envision with inspiration what it is that you possibly could become and how you harness and utilize everything that you get. I want you to take a moment and think within yourself. What will success look like for you? And when you are leaving from this place, not just on this day of Jummah today, but envision yourself walking at your graduation. Who is it that you should be on that day? What is it that you hope that you are going to become? What is it that you hope that you are going to grow into? What is it that you hope that you want to achieve? And you think every step of the way leading to that moment, what is going to have to get done to make that happen? Opportunities will avail themselves to you, but you will have to choose whether you will take advantage of them or not. The things that create appeal to the masses will seek to sway your attention. You're going to have to decide whether that's really worth your time or not. And having a firm intention, a motivation that recognizes, why am I doing what it is that I'm about to do? To bring a presence of your intellect, the akal, into your decision making. To afford an opportunity to recognize that the most precious part of you is not anything that exists external to you, but the world that exists within you and how you cultivate and grow and deepen in a relationship with that world. So that your choices understand that this is a big part of something, but it's not the only thing. And I've been endowed with an opportunity to show confidence within my God-given talents and skills. and to see where it is that the world gives me imagery day in and day out of those who are egocentric, those who are selfish, those who are greedy, those who are bigoted, those who are racist, those who are hateful, those who are selfish. But where there is distress and agony, I will be the source of calm. Where there is hate and bigotry, I will be the source of love and mercy. Where there is a presence of greed and selfishness, I will be the generous. I will be a means through which kindness is disseminated. You got to stop every so often and think about where I want to be before you start to head in that direction. To be khalifa means that you're what comes next. You don't have to bear the burden and responsibility of representing 2 billion people across the world every single day. But you choose your choices and you get to decide what your name is going to mean when people hear it. You don't want to be the guy that is known as disrespecting women. The one who could care less how it is that he treats the ones that the Quran says, as a brother, you're supposed to be a sister of. You don't want to be the person that's known that you can't talk to this person because they just tell everybody your business all the time. And to interject gossip and backbiting into conversations that should not have those kinds of things present. You don't want to be known as the person who breaks promises. You don't want to be known as the person who lies and cheats. You don't want to be known as the person who elevates themselves by denigrating others. As your brother who loves you, you want to be known for who you actually are. The catalyst of real beauty, an agent of real good. The person who, when they walk into a space, people's hearts are uplifted because they know that here's somebody that I can lean on. Here's somebody that I can trust. Here's somebody that I can walk through with certain struggles. But you have to define and identify for yourself before anything else. What are you doing here? Where is it that you want to actually end up? Why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a lawyer? Why do you want to be an engineer? Why do you want to be an artist? Why do you want to be an academic or an activist or any of these things? You start to bring some of that presence, that consciousness into the mix right now. There's going to be times when people are going to look to push you down. And that's why all of you have to be there for the rest of you in ways that others might not be there for you. The world can be really hard, and it can remind you constantly, consistently, about things that you wish it didn't point out to you. My son Kareem, he really likes watching a lot of different cartoons. My mother, she is an older woman now, 70-some years of age. Her grandkids, my son and daughter, they said to her a few months ago that Baba won't buy us a Nintendo. My mother got on the phone and she said, "What's your problem?" I said, "Thank you." And she said, "Stupid, buy them a Nintendo." I said, "I don't want my kids to play Nintendo. I'm worried they'll get addicted to it." She said, "I bought you a Nintendo. Are you saying you're a better parent than me?" So I said to my wife, "We're buying Medina and Kareem Nintendo for you." One of the games my sister and brother-in-law bought for them was Super Smash Brothers. Many of you have probably played it. My son, he wants to be this character, and my daughter wants to be another one. And they said, let's all be characters that we look like. And we can have their strengths and do their moves. So they picked amazing characters, and then they said to me, Baba, you should be Jigglypuff. I said, why? He said, because he looks so much like you. And my son started poking my belly. He said, see, soft, soft, soft. Sometimes the world doesn't let you forget certain things about yourself. It's going to pull you in every which way if you let it. If you don't firm yourself now on what it is that you're hoping to go and get done, and it's not that you won't be moving, but growth is not there because you don't know where it is that you're hoping to end up. You believe in Jummah, like really believe in it, in its existence. We have people move up, scoot up a little bit. The recognition and a reality that is not just that someone has told you what it is you're supposed to think, but within your own convictions, do you believe that there is something that's ahead, that this is not just it? In the pursuit of your own knowledge and your careers that are ahead of you, a recognition that in the learning process of your spiritual growth, the first step in learning, paradoxically, is going to be unlearning anything. If I asked you individually, who is God to you, what would you say to me? Not somebody else's definition, a perspective that comes from a book that you have read, but for you, who is your creator? Do you believe in a God that believes in you more than you believe in yourself? A God of mercy, a God of love, a God to draw strength from, to find hope in. Or do you believe in a God that is an angry old man in the sky looking for a reason to punish you and push you down? If your relationship with this faith is one that you learn the words fard, obligation, and haram, impermissible, before anybody said to you, this is who God is. If you were taught to pray sunnah prayers before you learned who sunnah it was that you were following, the mechanics, the rituals, they are not an ends, they are a means to something. And if you have the mental faculties and intellectual capacity to be in an institution of learning that is qualified as higher in its undertones, especially one that is as good as this, then you have the capacity to deepen in your relationship and understanding of what this religion is actually about. And to then find strength from it, to find courage through it, to have a bold audacity that allows you to meet everything that a world rooted in supremacy, aspiring towards whiteness, telling you to be anything as long as it's embodying an anti-blackness. It's going to turn you into whatever it is that it wants you to be. But if you can understand that you play a role in determining where you land, and it's going to make it feel and be that much different. Some of you went to pray Fajr on the Brooklyn Bridge a few days ago. And I know, without even talking to you about it, that it was an amazing experience. Because you stood side by side with people, but you also went at a time and a space that allowed for you to now find some type of relationship with you in the world that exists around you. For some of you, it might be the first time in however long that you've actually seen the sunrise. To take in a moment of real growth, inwardly and outwardly. You decide if your weeks are going to be like that, or if they're going to just be the same routine, the same monotony, chasing after a world that will never satisfy you. You're going to decide whose company you keep and whose company you do not keep. You're going to decide what your eyes see, what your ears hear, what your hands touch. You're going to decide the words that come from your mouth.
So Kami, what you gonna do?
You can decide whether there's gentleness to it, whether there's truth in it, whether there's justice in it, there's kindness in it, or if it's absent of those things. So make good choices. Make good decisions. The purpose of the Jummah prayer is twofold. Some would say that it is ta'aleem. The purpose is education. That people would come to listen to some words, to learn a little bit more. I want you to think about this for a minute, because some of you have probably gone to Jummah for so much of your life. What do you take away from it experientially? What do you learn? Others would say that the primary understanding of Jummah's purpose is ibadah, worship. You want to be able to combine both. You recognize that both learning and worship are a means for our own self-care. This space is for you. So come to it often. Definitely on Fridays, but also every other day of the week. You know who deserves to pray 5 times a day? You do, not anybody else more than you. You know who deserves to make dua to Allah every single time they want to? Is you. You don't have to be the person standing on the minbar. You don't have to have memorized the whole Quran. You don't have to be the person who looks a certain way or acts or certain whatever else. Allah's there for you. And how you build a sense of empowerment through that relationship with God is going to be based off of your perceptions of who He is. So you start to unlearn. My kids, they take swimming lessons at a local YMCA. And this pool is filled with screaming kids all the time. And I was standing on the other end of the pool, and my kids were on the other end of it. My 6-year-old, he got water into his nose and his eyes. If you could picture twice as many people as in this room filled in a pool where the noise is echoing and echoing and echoing. My son started to cry, and I could hear it through all of that sound. I can hear my 6-year-old's voice in the midst of all of those voices. Allah definitely hears each one of your individual prayers in the sea of voices that are turning to Him every day. The only thing that's going to keep that voice from being heard is if you do not share it. We don't go in that direction. You're going to make mistakes. There's no mistake that you can make that's greater than God's love and mercy. You're going to do some things that are amazing and some things that are really stupid. But how you stand once you've fallen is going to be important. And how you pull other people down or bring them up is going to be your choice. So revisit on this day of Jummah this concept of Quranic purpose, istikhlaf, to be khalifa. And to then recognize that you choose your choices out of honor and recognition of all those who came before you so you could be where you are today. What are you hoping to achieve? You sit with real reflection. If I were you, I'd pull out a notebook and write it down for myself at some point later. What does success look like for me? Who do I want to be when I graduate from this place? And start to write down an answer so you can own up to it. Is the I that I am right now on the trajectory of being able to meet the I that I potentially can become? Throughout the process, build good relationships. The people who you are sitting with today, make them from the closest of your friends and companions. When somebody leans on you, make sure that they didn't make a bad choice, but you be the best version of yourself, not only for you, but for those who are around you, needing you to recognize your potential so that they can benefit from the blessing that is uniquely in you. Throughout it all, make sure that you are making time for your heart so that in the coming year, you're able to yield as much as you can of an opportunity of growth during your time in this space. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah will make it a means of benefit for you in this world and in the next. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Some of your classmates had asked if we could make some du'as for some of their family members. Brother Kumail, whom some of you might have met, he's a student here at Stern, who was an outgoing president. His grandmother, Kazmi Rizvi, was recently hospitalized in Massachusetts. If you could keep her in the dua, inshallah. Brother Zaid Salahuddin, who's also on this year's MSA board, he flew out to Pakistan last night. Both of his grandfathers are fairly sick, one with COVID and one with another illness. We can make dua for Zaid and his entire family. He's trying to get there before his grandfather passes. Please keep them in your prayers. I believe our brother Imam also had a family member who was ill this last week as well. We send out dua requests every week by email on Friday before Jummah. If there's any that you would like for us to mention during the Jummah prayer itself, or via email, feel free to send it over to me, inshallah. We'll be sure to do that. Starting from next week, we're going to have our halaqah starting. Sheikh Sahib Webb will be doing our halaqah on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Sheikh Aisha Khan will do one on Wednesday. And Sheikh Gaz Jaffa will be doing one on Thursdays also. And myself and Hannah will be doing some things on Monday, in addition to all these other events and programs that we have. Be sure to come and join and let others know to join as well. If there's anything that you all need as you're going through your time here, let us know. We'll do our best to help in whatever ways that we can. Once you're done with your sunnah and nawafil today, at the conclusion of the prayer, we'll be having lunch. We hope that you all can join us. Our student leaders will be leading the outdoors that we'll be doing. Beautiful day outside. Please do join us. And then at Tandon, our engineering school, we're having our own Jummah prayer right now. We're going to do a couple of events that are happening. We'll be leaving from here at around 3:30 p.m. So if anyone would like to come with us to Tandon for the program we have today, feel free to join us there as well. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah. We beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present here in and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from affliction, anxiety, and anguish of any kind. Remove from our hearts any feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. Grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and hope. Hearts that are drawn towards things of real goodness and beauty. Hearts that find themselves deep in your remembrance. For indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. Bless these young people, Ya Allah, in all of their endeavors and ambitions. With barakah into their studies. Khair into every dua that they invoke you by. We give to them and their loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. Help us, Ya Allah, to see in ourselves what you see in us. Help us to see our potential, our ability to be agents of real good. And through us, Ya Rabbi, bring benefit to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, feed your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, clothe your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, give shelter to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, give strength to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, be merciful to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, be generous to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, give hope to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, love your creation. Make us those, Ya Rabb, who feel the presence of your divine love and divine mercy. Make it a means through which we are increased in our sense of self-esteem and confidence, so that we go out and change this world uniquely in ways that only we can. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقيموا الصلاة